Hello, everybody. How are we doing today? Welcome to what is maybe, depending on how well this goes, a regular content of KCAPC, which will be called the Music Shop. And what this is and what this will do be is just music that has touched us. I personally believe that music is one of those things that we all have in common. We may have different styles of music that we like, different types of music that we enjoy, but music is one of those things that is constant. We all. I've never met anyone who didn't say they had a favorite album or favorite band or favorite song, something that touched them in some way. And I thought for the first of these conversations that we're having, I wanted to bring in someone who is very important and special to me. It is my musical partner, my the person who we met through a mutual love of music and a mutual love of specific types of music. And the artist that we're going to talk about today is one of those artists that we like gravitated towards and really connected on, to the point where we still discuss this artist relatively often when we talk on conversation. And that artist is Solange Knowles. I'm bringing my friend Josh in. Um, and specifically, we're going to talk about the Seat at the Table album. It was an album that is very important to me as a person and a person of color. It is one of those albums that just you can listen to and really understand and see where the artist is coming from and get a sense of the type of person that they are and how they feel and their thoughts. And I think with us, especially people of color and Black identified people of color, even more so, there is kind of this level of things that were she said in this album that really kind of resonated. And I don't know why. Guys, I'm gonna do something really quick. Give me 1 second, because I don't know why it's got that up. I mean, let's go to apps. There. That's the custom message. Let's delete these messages because we don't need. We'll leave this one up. But yeah, so while we're here and while we're doing things, I want to let everybody know that hey, this is KCAPC, Kansas City Alternative Podcast Collective. Again, this is the Music Shop, and we're going to be talking music with Josh, and he will be in just a second. We're going to be talking about a seat at the table. If anything resonates with you on this conversation, please feel free. I've got the stream up so that we can see your messages. He will be on in just a minute. He is coming straight from the ATL, Georgia, and we will be having this conversation. So I'm excited about this. I'm excited about what this is going to be, the conversation that we're going to have about this album and specifically kind of our feelings and our thoughts on it. If you're watching, we are doing, hey, speak of the devil and he shall appear. We have a Josh in the building.
DJ Josh on the what ones and twos.
Fricka. What's up, player? What's up, partner? What's going on?
How goes it? Hello, all.
So I've got Josh coming to us live and direct from ATL, Georgia, Before we get into the meat and potatoes of what I wanted to discuss with you today, I wanted to kind of give some insight into our friendship. You've been on the podcast before, but for those who don't know, me and Josh have been friends for a number of years. We're not going to say how many.
250 years.
And our connection point was through music, through other things, but I think we really dove into our friendship through a mutual love of music and the stories that music can tell.
Well said. It has been the through line.
It has. It really has. From Stacey Orico calling your Virgin mobile phone.
Yes, indeed.
But one of the artists that's been a constant kind of in our friendship has been Solange. And although I started with the Solange, the Solo Star album, you started with Solange and the Hadley Street Dreams, and that was not an album that really kind of connected with both of us and gave us, many dinner party nights. uh,
Yeah, it was. I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about this, but it was representative of a place that a place of joy, of celebration, right? It wasn't a entirely optimistic, positive album, but it had an overall theme of sort of uplifting um, and I found it to be a comfort, and I found it to be something that sort of elevated me, and I think it draws an interesting contrast and a good one to a seat at the table, and sort of I think where she was when she wrote Soul Angel, where she was when she wrote Seat at the Table, and how some of the hopeful aspects, I think, uh, you can draw comparisons. There are some that are more evident, some that are not, but it's quite a contrast.
yes, absolutely. And like the album that we're talking about, and at length today is a seat at the table because it is the 5 year anniversary of that album, and it's well, September 30th was the 5 year anniversary of the album, and
And my
I had
birthday.
been thinking about wanting to do something with that. Because for me, I remember the first time I listened to that album, I was, at the my previous job, and I had been, I got it was there was literally like 2 weeks between A Seat at the Table is coming out as an album, and then we got it, and I was super excited because and I think I texted you and was like, "This is not a drill. There's a Solange album coming out, and we have to get on it. We have to be excited." And I didn't know anything about it. I had she had come out with the EP, and I personally wasn't the biggest fan of the EP just because it was so different from what Soul Angel was, and it was like, but we're getting a full length album. We don't know about anything about it. We don't know what's gonna happen with it. It's called A Seat at the Table. I don't know what that means. Like, what is this gonna be? And I think a lot of people, at that time it was always, well, that's Beyonce's sister. And so some of us, or some people, were expecting a Beyonce album, and not necessarily realizing that she'd kind of carved her own lane out with Soul Angel, and with True. She'd kind of carved her own kind of niche out of what musically and sonically she was going to do. But I was not expecting um, what we got by any mean, by any stretch of the imagination. I was not expecting for it to be so impactful in my life. And I remember listening to it, sitting at my desk, working, and just going back and feeling kind of all of these emotions, um, that from a particularly black experience, it was like, oh, I know exactly what she's talking about here. I know exactly what she's talking about here. I know exactly what this is here. I know exactly what this is. Wow, she's going there. And,
Mhm.
and doing so unapologetically. And it helped me kind of sharpen my activist focus on things and understand that the stories, although the things that she were talking about were not unique experiences, and it was so interesting how that one album. We're gonna go into it track by track because I got my book, my seat at the table book, um, you know, and there's some lyrics that I think we should really touch on. And I remember you not being the biggest fan of it at first.
Mhm. I struggle from resistance to artists who change up the game, who evolve. I am one of those, like, when, and my, like, most famous example is Erica Badu. Like, I was the biggest fan when Baduism came out, and then by the time, uh, excuse me, by the time the next album came out, Orange Moon, I think was,
Mama's Gun.
I was good. So it came out, and I was like, oh no, that's not for me, because it was different, right? And so it wasn't until much later that I finally came to appreciate it, because I let down my guard and said, okay, fine, yes, it's different, yes, it's not the same thing, but, like, I can appreciate what's being done. It's the same thing. I've always struggled with artists who do that. Brandy is one of my favorites, and she's very experimental. She likes to try new things, and so it's very much the same thing. So,
Yeah, I mean, and we could do a whole show on Erica and the changes and how Erica is one of those artists who I never like it their albums when they come out, but I find you know sometimes months, sometimes years after, going back and listening and being like, why did I dislike this? You know,
yeah, it withstands the test of time, and I think that will be true of a seat at the table as well.
I mean, I
Even
think that,
five,
yeah,
it will hold up.
absolutely. I think this is an album that, um, again, we weren't expecting it from. It wasn't something that we were necessarily expecting from Solange. We weren't expecting for it to go so deep, because let's be honest, we don't expect celebrities in general to go to the places in which she went, and use the kind of imagery and things that she used on this album to really craft what the black experience is like, and then having the interludes and kind of really hammering this point home. um, and although you are a Caucasian individual, um, it's I thought you would be the best person to talk to about this because we again you have that love of music and you have that you have that understanding of. I really think that you have an understanding of what she's talking about, in a way that other people may not, because we've been friends so long. You've kind of experienced some of this stuff with me, um, and also you've just always kind of been someone who just understood maybe intrinsically that like your experience and my experience are of the world are completely different, um and that is what has made us and made our friendship so much stronger, because I feel like sometimes I don't have to explain things to you that I would have to explain to other people. You could be like, nope, I get it. Like, I get it. And I think with this album, for like I said, it really kind of woke something up in me that I didn't realize was there and made me really kind of get into, um like it's honestly, it's how the podcast began. It's how, it was that telling those stories. Uh, it brought me us kind of where we are right now. So I definitely owe, I think, a debt of gratitude to the album. But Solange, you can't have no money. You already got enough. So I want to jump into this kind of like track by track. Again, I'm looking at I've got it held up. This is the Seat at the Table uh, book that was released about a year after the album came out. Or it took me a year to get it. Let me say that. Um, because, and really it is just photos and lyrics. And I think some of the lyrics are amazing. So we're going to start with the first track, which is Weary. Um, or, no, sorry, which is Rise, which I think is a great way to me, it's a great way to open the album. And I wish that we had the rights to play some of these tracks or give snippets to some of them, because reading the lyrics isn't going to necessarily give you the same impact. But I'm not singing them.
No, but instead I will. So
Okay, yes, go ahead, sang church.
Absolutely not.
um,
That's a whole different show.
Listen, Joshua murders the hits.
12 tracks, no skips, swear to God.
No skips, not one skip at all. But I think like this first song, it's just the opener. The lyrics are fall in your ways so you can crumble, fall in your ways so you can sleep at night, fall in your ways so you can wake up and rise. Now, I'm not going to pretend like I know what that means.
This one sets the stage beautifully, though.
Yes, it absolutely sets this. When you hear this opener that you are going to get an experience, and it's not going to be anything like you hear on the radio. It's not going to be anything like you hear, that's popular or mainstream at the time. It wasn't going to be the DJ got us falling in love or whatever Usher was singing. It was going to be pure, unfettered R&B, experimental music. And I was like, okay, cool. Here's what we got. And then it gives us, and then we come back into Rise or Weary, which is, to me, this song that says so much. It's I'm weary of the ways of the world. Like when you think about that, and you think about that from any marginalized person, whether it be a person of color, black identified person of color, someone who's LGBT, we have all kind of looked at the TV, women, we've all looked at the TV and went, I'm just weary. Like, why does the world have to be this way? And
Mm-hmm.
Going back and listening and hearing that and kind of having these feelings, and then it says I'm gonna look for my body, I'll be back real soon. Like I'm just gonna escape. I want to be away and just done with all of this. And I'm gonna go get high, I'm gonna go take a nap, I'm gonna like get into some reality TV, something, whatever I need to do to escape and just be done.
Yeah, and this is so there's a sort of duality to this album in which certain tracks feel, if not universal, then at least they feel as though a great many people from a great many different experiences can listen and relate.
Yes.
And then there are other tracks that are distinctly from a unique point of view, and you just kind of have to listen without necessarily being able to stand in those shoes, right? To imagine it from the same point of view.
Right.
This one, although the entire album, every track has a distinct point of view. It is very clearly autobiographical, and and suggests how she sees the world, how she perceives it, how she's living it in the moment where she is in her life. It's the kind of song that when someone sings "I'm weary of the ways of the world," right? there are a great many of us who can hear that and understand it in some way.
Right. And lyrically, and you think about kind of the things that she says here. She says, but you know that a king is only a man with flesh and bones. He bleeds just like you do. Like it's almost this idea that when you're looking at people who are in places of power, and you give them kind of an outsized view of like who they are, and it's not recognizing the humanity in who they are, and really kind of digging into, oh, I see this person, especially when you think about when this album came out. It was right at the 2016 election.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like, we are, and I'm sure this was written prior to that, but when you think about that in terms of like what the country was going through at that time,
Mm-hmm.
it's we had just come off of, or just going into this really 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 difficult time in American history, and really in the history of the world. And this was almost like, to me, a, all right guys, get ready, like, get ready, you know and there were so many times over the last 5 years where I just put this song on and just let it play on repeat,
Mm-hmm.
and just let it be what it is. Anytime there was a the killing of an unarmed black person, it was just like, man, I'm just weary, I'm just tired, I'm over it, and it sucks that like those are the feelings that we had. This thing about this book is there are just so many pages just so random. Like, just random. She just
Oh,
has
that's fine.
things on here. um but then we get into our first kind of interlude of the album. No, I'm trying to stop it. Which is "The Glory Is in You," which is her talking with Master P, or Master P really kind of talking about where he was and finding his place. And I thought that the Master P interludes were those things that were really, you got to see him from a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about being a businessman, being a black businessman, being a mogul, and how his mind thought. It really gave me a lot more respect for Master P and what he did, and than I think I've had from any other like interview or anything, because it was just him talking truth. It wasn't like, he wasn't peddling nothing. He wasn't trying to sell you some ramen or some rap snacks or anything. It was just, this is what I feel, and like, loved it.
Yeah,
Then
and it integrates well with the theme of the album, right? Like
yes,
there are some interludes that, like, there are a lot of times when an interlude in an album just pisses me off because it gets in the way, or it's sort of jarring. Um, in this case, it actually is woven well into the fabric of the story that is being told. So
yeah, and I
kudos to
think
her.
all of the interludes in this kind of give you, they
Mm-hmm.
to me it feels like they kind of give you this taste of what's coming, um, without actually giving you, like, it's not spelled out for you. It's not, this next song is about XYZ. Um, but you know, let's ease you into the next scape, or the next, iteration of what we're talking about here. Um, and unlike a lot of albums that come out these days, this album has a through line. There's an actual, like, I look at this as like a concept album where there's a thread that's running through the entire thing, as opposed to, oh, I've got 10 songs, these are the 10 best songs, we're going to put those out and call it a day.
Right, she didn't even attempt to like make a radio hit.
No, not at all. Like, not at all. She said, I'm going to do what I want. And to me, it made the songs feel fresher, and we were able to connect on them because it doesn't feel like a radio hit.
Mhm.
And so the next song then comes into Cranes in the Sky, which, listen, as soon as you hear that, boo, boo, tss, 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 boo, boo, I was like, oh, this is going to go a place. I don't know what place this is going to go, but it's going there and I'm ready for it.
Mhm.
And this is another one of those songs that can really have dual meanings. You can think about, you can look at this as, a song about, individual depression or individual emotions or grief or, you know, as like a person. And then you can also look at it, from the Black experience as like, much like Weary, just being tired and how do you deal with, the weight of the world? How do you deal with existence and life? And it's like, I tried to drink it away. I tried to put one in the air. I tried to dance it away. You know, it's like using all of these different like coping mechanisms that, hi Chris, hi boo, these coping mechanisms that you use to like not deal with the stuff that's in front of you. um
Mhm.
and then I was reading something today, and I always thought Cranes in the Sky was like birds. And I was reading an interview today, and she's like, what she was talking about was right around the time that this song was kind of written, was during the housing boom, and there were all of these, cranes building buildings in the sky. And it was like, these beautiful, this beautiful sunsets that were like marred by these like heavy cranes, and it's the heaviness that she's talking about, trying
Yeah,
to.
Cranes in the Sky is one of my favorite tracks. I have a lot of tracks that I like on this album, but it's one of my favorites, and part of why is because of that, right? Like, I love when someone can do something clever with language. And the fact that cranes can mean the bird or the heavy equipment
Yeah.
uh, is beautiful to me. So yeah, it speaks to her talent as a songwriter.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it's not going to go through each and every one of the song lyrics, but it's just this idea that like I've done all of these things. I'm doing all of these things that are I'm drinking, I'm smoking, I'm having sex, I'm going
Running up my
running.
credit card bill.
Yeah, I'm running my credit card bill up. I'm doing all of these things that maybe I can so I can feel better, but none of it is making me feel better. And
Mm.
what do I need, or what can I do to make myself feel, and maybe not even feel better, but feel something,
Yeah.
and then that to me beautifully transitions into Matthew Knowles for the next interview or next interlude, talking about integration and him being one of the first kids to be integrated, and his feelings on that, and being upset that here he was taken from this his place of cocoon of peace into this war zone essentially. And when you look at pictures of what integration looked like, and you saw these these white adults attacking these little black babies, and think of how that can affect you and make you feel as a child growing up into that. And
Mhm.
it can be, yeah, it's called Dad Was Mad, and you could tell like he's mad and I would be mad too. Let's keep it real. um and then and that then goes into the song Mad, which is actually one of my favorite songs on the album.
Yeah.
There I have like three that are standouts, and this is one of them. And it's just because it does talk about being mad, and being mad at the world, and saying you have a right to be mad. Yeah.
Yeah, that's you know, this this is one of those tracks that again comes from a deeply personal place. Clearly there's a lived experience that she's expressing, right? There are lines in it that are autobiographical,
Right.
but a great many of us knows what it is. Not just to be mad, right? That's because we're not talking about just the general feeling of like any given thing that makes you mad, but like when you're when you've been through enough things that drive you to a place where the anger isn't the kind of thing that subsides after you cool down or you have a drink or you go dancing, right? The kind of mad that stays with you, that haunts you,
Yes.
and hangs over you like a dark cloud,
Hmm.
and that's there are those of us that can understand that, and so it's relatable.
And it's also a mad that you can't, and on one hand, it's a mad that you can't, you're not mad at someone specific.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? I'm mad at the world. I'm mad that this is what my existence has to be. And then there's a line in there that says, I ran into this girl. She said, "Why you always blaming? Why you can't just face it? Why you always got to be mad?" And this gives us Tweet, who I was so excited when I heard this voice. Just say, "I got a lot to be mad about." And it was like, first of all, is that Tweet? Like, I had to went and looked on the internet. I was like, "Oh shit, that's Tweet."
If
Oh,
anybody
buddy,
would know, it would be you.
I was excited about that. I love the Southern Hummingbird album, which we can talk about that album at some point too. Um, and then she said the other side of that conversation was, I ran to this girl. I said, "I'm tired of explaining. Man, this shit is draining, but I'm not really allowed to be mad." And when you think about that, it's this: all of these things are happening in life. All of these things are happening to you, and in this particular experience, this is written from from a black woman. So all of these things are happening to me as a black woman, and I can't even be mad about it. I'm not even allowed to be mad. I'm not allowed to express my frustration or express my anger and say this shit is fucked up. Because if I do that, then I'm the angry black woman. And
Yeah.
and it's like, so I'm supposed to just take it and take it and take it and take it and take it with a smile and take it without, complaining, and take it without being like, well, this shit isn't mine, but I gotta have it. I gotta hold on to it. And then that gives us the Little Wayne verse, which to me is like one of its. I'm not necessarily the biggest Lil Wayne fan, but I love his verse,
Mhm.
because I think it does speak to the struggles of being. It's kind of the other side of the coin. It's the struggles of being a black man and being seen as this scary figure when you're like, I'm just trying to go to work, or I'm just trying to like live my life and do, but I can't be mad about that. I'm not allowed to be mad that you see me as a danger when I'm not being a danger.
You know, something that thinking back to Matthew Knowles' interview or interlude just prior to this track, right? He was talking about integration from his perspective, right? I heard about school integration from my mother, who was going to then middle school whenever it happened for her. And I heard about it from her perspective. And to her, it was a non event, right? There weren't large scale protests like there were in some of the other areas, right? And so it was largely free of controversy for the most part,
In
as opposed to
Georgia?
what in her school it was. There weren't
Ah,
large protests. It was pretty subdued. But one of the things that she commented on was there was a single girl. Her name was Mary, who was black and who was introduced to the class whenever the school's integrated. And mom said, I didn't think anything about it. Mary was a very sweet girl. She seemed very nice, and we got along fine. And it occurred to me. I thought back to when I was listening to this album. I thought back to that conversation where mom had shared that because, of course, Mary was nice. What was she going to do? I mean, the school had just been integrated. Was she going to walk in there and say, screw you, white devils. Like, she had to be nice.
Right. She didn't have a choice.
You're not allowed to be mad, and so that that sort of being beholden to the circumstances of where you are in the society is something that is still as true today. Because you're absolutely right. A black woman dare not express frustration or anger lest she be labeled an angry black woman and dismissed.
Right.
Everything has to be couched in these polite affectations just to get through.
Right. Absolutely. And it's I think that's one of those songs that if because I remember, being on Twitter and looking at, um, the reactions when the album came out, and that was one of the songs that I feel like got the most kind of tweets, and this idea of like, this is somebody who gets it, and they're putting into words what so many black women and black people were feeling, you know. And this was like, you have to think like Black Lives Matter and all of that stuff was happening, and people were like, we don't understand what you guys are mad about, and blah 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 this and blah blah that. And so like there was this kind of pushback from people to say, well, we're not in the 60s and the 70s anymore, and so I don't understand why why you're so upset. And there's this page in the coffee table book that is just the word explaining and then years beside it. And to me, it's such an important, or like, it brings into focus, I think, what that song is about. In the first year, 1619, 1793, all the way down through, and it's like the death of Emmett Till, like all of these things where where black people were mad or could be mad, and they weren't allowed to be, and they had to explain why they were upset. And it's that's where I'm tired of explaining, why I have to be mad and why I have a lot to be mad about. And then that brings us into which this song I love, "Don't You Wait," musically, and even lyrically, but I'm not gonna pretend like I get it. But I think that there are specific lyrics that make me think it's about talking to someone who is not of color about experiences.
Mm.
One of the lines is, "I don't want to bite the hand that'll show me the other side, but I didn't want to build the land that has fed you your whole life."
We know there's a story behind that, right?
No.
So that line, she's calling back to this. This is a deep cut, but so speaking of Brandy, that's so funny that Brandy had I guess caught some flack for her album. I'm trying to think of which one it was, but it was
probably Human. That's the one nobody listened to.
I don't know if it was it might have been the one, or the one was after. Anyway, so Solange had basically said, like, I don't understand why there are people who are criticizing her when she is an artist who takes chances and who does these things that push her artistically and go in new and exciting and interesting directions. And maybe you should understand her body of work before you are so quick to criticize and dismiss it. And she got a lot of pushback from people in the industry, certain people in the industry. And one of the famous quotes that emerged from that was some guy, I think he was a music critic, basically saying, "Don't bite the hand that feeds you." And so that clearly pissed her off enough to put it in the song, and kudos to her for that, because I would have done it too.
Right. And it's again one of those things that's a double meaning. It's having that context. It's absolutely, as someone who is in the music industry, someone says don't bite the hand that feeds you, you're like, but you're criticizing someone for being taking a new and bold direction with their
Mm-hmm.
career, and so you're actually biting the hand that feeds you, because if she didn't do that, you wouldn't have anything to talk about. But then also, this idea that, like, I don't want to say anything that criticizes music critics, because that's how streams happen. That's how music. If critics say this album is bad, then people aren't gonna, necessarily go listen to it, or people won't check it out if they're not interested, or interested in the artist themselves. But also, I don't want to build my career based on what you say. There's a lot in that one, but like, that song is, I will have never pretended to understand what this whole song is about. I love it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love it. I think it's a beautiful song, and every time I hear it, like, in a space, I'm like, oh, like, it's got that pulse and bass. The engineers did amazing on that.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, and then we get into Miss Tina's story, which, of all of the interludes, this is my favorite one,
Yeah, she does a beautiful job.
because she puts in such a she just lays it out there. Just because I'm proud of my blackness doesn't mean I hate your whiteness. You know, and just because we have a black, she's like, we have a Black History Month because our history is not being taught. She just lays it out there and says it. And I think that, and does it in a way that sounds blunt but not harsh.
Yeah, this is clearly someone who has thought about this,
Yeah.
and she's right, and it's a very important point, right? Being pro-black does not mean being anti-white. They are two separate things,
Hmm.
and it's a it's a clever rhetorical trick that some bad actors will do to try to conflate them.
Right. And she says, and I think her exact line, and unfortunately we can't listen to it, but she says, we, they say, well, we got Black History Month, why do we have White History Month? And she's like, well, that's all we've been taught is white history.
Mhm.
And she's like, I'm proud of my blackness. I never wanted to be anything but black. And as a person who, growing up, I wasn't always proud of my blackness, because I didn't see anything to be proud of. That wasn't what was, that wasn't the world that was shown to me, except for 28 days. And all it was Rosa Parks and, Martin Luther King.
Mhm.
So there wasn't, this was that was one of those moments where I was like, I can be proud of being black, and not have it interfere with my white friends or my white partner, or my, you know, like, I can say things and be who I am and be authentically myself without, it shouldn't be offensive to them. And if it is offensive to them, then that's on them and not on me.
Mhm.
Um, which then gets us into Don't Touch My Hair.
And by the way, how brilliant is it that she begins with the interlude with Tina and then transitions into Don't Touch My Hair because Tina was a hairstylist and ran a
Yep.
hair salon. I thought that was such a clever turn.
It is, and it's this is one, and Don't Touch My Hair is one of those songs that is both literal and figurative.
Mhm.
It's, listen, don't touch my hair. Like, leave it alone. It's mine. You do not have permission. You don't know what it takes to make this hair do the things that it does. So don't touch it. And then also, it is, you know, don't touch my hair. Like, don't touch my heritage. Don't touch my blackness. Leave. You don't understand what it took me to get here. So leave me alone. When she says, don't touch my crown, it's like, don't leave me alone.
Mhm.
It's and anyone uh who is black or a person of color, especially if you've got protective styles, and there's always like, oh, can I touch it? And it's like, no, you can't. Don't touch it. Or if they ask. So we all had this kind of collective, don't touch my hair. Like, what do you do? Like, it we felt it, and we felt it in this way that was so kind of like powerful and profound. And it's, and then when you think about it, and then these years where like the crown acts have been implemented, and people have been, you know our hair is so important to who we are as people. And seeing people have to cut their dreads off, or hair being seen as unkempt or not professional, or not the but then turn around and want those same hairstyles.
Mhm.
They want the cornrows, they want the braids, they want this. It's just this. Someone said everybody wants to be black until it's time to be black.
Paul Mooney said that.
Yeah.
That was brilliantly.
Yeah, like it's one of those. It's like, and this is literally that I had been out with people after this album came out, and they would be like, "Can I touch your?" And they would go to say, "Can I touch it?" Nope, don't touch your hair. And I was like, it took a song for y'all to realize that you just can't touch people.
I mean, I guess that's progress.
I mean, it's progress.
Thanks to Solange. We should all thank
Yeah.
her for that one.
And
We talked earlier about the duality of this album, right? The notion of some of these concepts are universal. This one felt to me very much like that. Uh, this is not something I'll be able to relate to. It's directed to me
right,
or to people like me, and so it was one of those you just kind of have to listen to, but it
you have to
certainly
exactly.
ought to reflect, or it should.
This is that is very much a this. If you are not a black identified person of color, this song was not for you. You know, it was directed at you, but not for you.
Mhm.
But also, there's a line in there that they don't know what it means. Let me go back and look at it again. They don't understand what it means to me, where we chose to go, what we've had to know. And I think that goes back to the other side of that heritage, because I've said before, one of the things about being a minority is that I have to, or what privilege means is that you don't need to know what you need to know. Like, or you don't know what you would you what's the best way to say it?
Mhm.
You don't have to know what you don't know. Like, you
Yeah.
as
Mhm.
a white person, you don't have to know what someone else's struggle is to survive. You know,
Yeah.
but me as a black identified person of color, I have to know what you're thinking. I have to know what your struggle is. I have to know. Like, I remember talking with right around last year when the George Floyd situation and all that was going on. My boss at the time was like, I need to make study up on the issues. And then one of my black coworkers was like, I don't understand what he has to study up on. It doesn't make any sense. Like, can't you just see? And that's when it came to me, like, he doesn't have to see it. He doesn't have to. It doesn't affect him in any way. But we have to know what's going on in his world.
Yeah, it's funny, they have that old saying that a fish has no concept of water, right? Because they live in it. And so if you're completely absorbed in something, then you don't even think about it because it becomes woven into the fabric of your everyday life. And conversely, if you never have to deal with something, it's like that concept of unknown unknowns, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can't spend much time thinking about the things that I'll never be faced with. So
Right.
hopefully, a track and an album like this will open a few eyes, right? Make people stop and pause and reflect on what it might be like from a different perspective. What if I had to deal with these things? What might that be like?
I mean, we would like to think that that would happen, but we'll see. And then we get into kind of the next, which blends into that song, blends into and kind of weaves into the next time we hear Master P talking about, this moment, and to me it felt like the great capstone, because I think it was this moment where everyone was listening to that song and being like, yes, don't, like, collectively, this breathe of yes. And it was like, if you don't understand what this moment was about, like, you don't understand that moment at the end of that song where she's really kind of going into, to me it was like a microcosm of blackness, and this idea of everything is on display, and to me it felt prophetic of when that was released, everyone talking about these songs and what it meant, and what that moment was, and then in a bigger, and kind of away from the album, what was happening in the world at that time. There were the growing protests. There were all of these things where people were really digging and searching for equality and or equity and justice. Like, that's what this moment is about. And then we get into where do we go? Which I will tell you, one day what this song is about hit me like a ton of bricks.
Oh, yeah?
It is gentrification.
Huh. I think you might be right.
It's
Oh.
when you look at it as, don't drive the road too slow, don't look too close to tonight. This used to be ours. This used to be you and I's. What used to be mine, say your goodbyes. And I don't know where to go, and I don't know where to stay. This song is about gentrification.
I think you might be onto something there.
Another line, this used to be home, this used to be what we know. What used to be long, now good and gone. This is coming about having a neighborhood and something that is yours, and because you remember, like, these were black neighborhoods, these were brown neighborhoods that took care of their own, and they, you knew who was on the block, and then you have new people coming in, and those people being, priced out of their homes, and they have to go. But where are they going to go? Like, where do they go from here? Where like, and it just, one day it was just like, I was like, oh wow, this song is about gentrification, and done in a way that it is not like, the song has this kind of sad and forlorn uh, piece to it, and can be said it's about lovers. It's about, all of these things, but really, like, when you look at it in terms of, housing and things like that, it's like, wow.
And it just sounds beautiful.
Yeah. Madonna used to also have a playground. Girl, Christopher, your friend is a mess, by the way.
Don't claim him.
And then we go into the is it right there? Oh, once again,
There's an interlude, right?
There's another interlude. Master P talking about when he got offered $1 million.
That was brilliant.
Yeah, and brilliant. And you have to think of somebody who's in the hood. Someone offer you $1 million to have the forethought to be like, no, if you offered me $1 million, that means I gotta be worth 40 or 50, because you're not gonna give me what I'm worth.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna go ahead and do it. I'm gonna do it myself. And to me, that's so brilliant. Like, and then goes into Fubu, which is one of those songs that for you, like, this isn't a song about you. You know, this isn't a song that you
Yeah.
can like that. I don't think you can connect to in the same level that I can connect to.
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna sing it right now. All right. Okay.
Oh man, nope.
For those of you listening, I'd recommend you listen to the song and maybe, depending on
Maybe,
who you are, maybe sing along, maybe don't.
but you know, it's. But again, this is one of those songs that lyrically there are so many gems in it. You when you know you got to pay the cost, play the game just to play the boss. So you thinking what you gained, you lost. Like, there are so many things and like so many moments in this song that you're like, damn, yep, I can play in the game. I can do that. I gotta dim my light so that somebody else can shine. You know,
The one that got me was pulling up to your crib and they ask you where you live again.
right?
That was
Oh,
just like a gut punch.
it's where is it? Yeah, pull up to your crib. They ask you where you live again, but you run out of dams to give. When you're driving in your tinted car and you're criminal, just who you are. Like, when you're trying to board a plane and they ask you what's your name again, because they thinking, yeah, you all the same. Like,
Yeah.
just these moments that are crystallized in the black experience.
Hmm.
Um, and then there's this where is it? Don't feel bad if you can't sing along. Just be glad you got the whole wide world. You know what I mean? Like, you got everything. Everything is yours. This is ours. Like, this is ours. And that this shit is from us. Get so much from us, then forget us. Like, uh, just the song just is. It's one of those things that like between the like horns and the bass and everything in it is just absolutely beautiful to listen to. And oh, thanks, Chris. Um, just I love
and,
it.
and calling it Fubu was a stroke of genius.
Stroke of genius. Like, stroke. If I were the CEO of Fubu, I would have came back into the whole campaign over this song.
Right?
Like, boom. Like, no, this is literally for us. Um, and then we have Borderline, which is titled an ode to self care. Wait, did I skip an interlude again? Nope.
Oh, yeah.
And then we have Borderline, which is also called an ode to self care. Um,
And is one of my favorites.
yes, yes. I can't tell you what it's about.
Uh, well, she gives us a hint with the title, so that always
Right.
that always helped me. We I'm gonna butcher the lyrics, but it's like let's take off tonight. Like um, let's like we're tired, right?
Right.
There's a brilliant line. It's a war outside these walls, and
I
I
can
think
give it
she
to
says
you.
a war outside. Yeah, it's a war outside these walls.
It's a war outside these doors.
Yeah, outside these doors, and it's one of those that just like the last song was very much from a very specific perspective, and um, depending on who you are, you can either relate or you can sort of be a passive, like a listener, and be receptive to the message. In this one, it feels much more relatable to regardless of where you are, where you're coming from, because I think we've all at some point had that moment of like it's hell out there,
Right.
like the let's just stay right in here and not go through all of that. But it's especially poignant coming from her, knowing her experience.
Yes. And it's one of those songs that's just beautiful. And to me, I don't when I say I don't necessarily understand the song, is I don't understand the larger context, but really what it sounds like is having a conversation with someone or yourself and just being like, I gotta get away for a little bit of time and just reset. And that's the self care. She says, I think, where is it? Yeah, it's we're outside these walls, it's we're outside these doors. It's a safe place tonight. Let's play it safe tonight. Like, let's just retreat into our shell and just, you know, exist for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Which then brings us to Genie, which, first of all, anytime I can hear Solange and Kelly Rowland singing together, I'm here for it. Like, the way their voices just blend together is so exciting to me. And it's like, to me, that song isn't long enough. But, one of the lines that she says is, don't let anybody steal your magic, but I got so much, y'all. Like, like,
fantastic line.
it's just, it's a fantastic line. And then it runs into Juni, which to me, first of all, being that this is like a Neptune produced track and it's like fun. It's like the fun song.
Feel good.
It's like so good. To me, like it evokes feelings of like being in a juke joint.
Yeah. It's I remember it feels vaguely reminiscent of like not not a straight like homage to disco, but there are almost like sort of hints of it in there.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of in the sort of lightness in the.
I always think like disco or like a 1920s like kind of like jazzy influence. It's the only danceable song on the album.
For the rest of it, you better sit your ass down.
For the rest of it, sit your ass down. But this is the only like danceable song where you're like, if I hear it, I'm like, oh, and it's just the melodies and everything that she's doing. It sounds like a jam session.
Yeah.
Like to me, this song sounds like it came whole hog from they're just playing and seeing what happens.
And 2000, come on.
Yep. And then we have this song is my favorite song on this album. Let me make sure I'm not missing the interlude before we go any further. I think we're not. Yes. We did miss one. Master P talk about how No Limit began, and the line that he says he called it No Limit because there ain't no limit to what I can do. And I was like so empowering in that moment. Love it. But then we get into Don't Wish Me Well.
Another favorite.
This song is literal perfection.
I have to agree.
Like,
it's kind of pitch perfect.
Pitch perfect. There's a lot. The line, I know you always speak on something, so I'll leave on the mic for you. Like, this song.
Say you can have it.
Love it. Look what remains. This stanza here. Look what remains. Pour ashes where they claim my name. They say I changed. What a pity if I stayed the same. Thinking that everything is funny, but don't say that the joke's on you. Girl. Like,
they say I changed, but a pity if I stay the same. I mean, come on.
Like,
at all.
Just, it's just like, and it's so like musically, there's so much going on in it, and like,
Yeah, it's rich, it's ambient, it's got that sort of ethereal, like dreamlike sort of vibe that she carries throughout the album.
yeah,
Um, which really, that was sort of like the thing that won me over when I was like initially resistant was the vibe of the album that sort of, like, because when you think about it, there are so many tracks where she's talking about how she's either tired or she's angry or she's put upon in some way, and ultimately her desire is to get away from all that.
right.
And what better way to send that message musically than with a sort of dreamlike, ethereal, kind of lo-fi quality. So I
And then every
really
once in a while, you'll get the doom 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 doom, and it's just like, oh, where did that come from? And then her way, and I'm gonna jump a little bit into after this because there's like we haven't gotten to. Part of me wants to talk about the something on. Well, why can't I remember the name? A Long Way Home, but no, this is about a seat at the table, so we're just gonna stay there.
focus.
Um, yeah, we're just gonna focus on that one because there's so then we get into like so yeah then we get into the interlude, another interlude for pedestals, which I don't remember right now, and I feel really bad. Um, but then we get into Scales, which is my second favorite song on the album because she's telling a story, and to me, I feel like Scales is the for lack of a better term, like if someone were like, what is the song that you think encapsulates everything on the album or what she's trying to say? I think it Scales. I think in the way she sings the song, the meticulous notes that she uses, how it's sung, and the lyrics are great because she's talking about her son,
Mm-hmm.
and she's talking about kind of the legacy of what she wants her son to carry. And to me, I think it's gorgeous. Um,
And positioned beautifully too in the placement and where it is in the album. To kind of go out like that.
yeah,
Um,
it's and it's that when you hear those literal scales in the beginning of the song, and it's just those notes, and then you get into the lyrics, and she says like, "Put the incense on, cover up the smell, and if your boy is still down, I know you'll never tell." Like that is a specific experience, for a young black child, getting high in the room, got the incense, so like it evokes very specific imagery. Um, and then there's this line here: "The streets say you're a king, the world says you're a failure, and your mother is a queen, but damn, she always tell you you're gonna end up like your daddy, but damn that nigga fresh." Like that that
yeah.
that like that duality
Yeah.
of you know in on my block where I'm at, you know, I got something here. You know, the world doesn't think shit of me, you know, but here I'm king, and my mama say I'm gonna end up like my daddy, but my daddy was king and he went through the same thing. The world said he was a failure. You know what? But he was fly as hell. And it's very just gorgeous song, and then the always shining in the night, and then that end where she says, your love is kind,
Your love
but
ain't
your love ain't
blind.
blind.
Yeah.
Your world is kind, but your world ain't blind.
Yeah.
Like it's so good.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. And then we get into she finishes the album with the Chosen Ones, and so I just think that this album is, for me, in the 5 years since this album has come out, I feel like a lot of this put in to the universe kind of the energy that was needed at that time for a lot of people to go on and to keep fighting.
Yeah, and I have to wonder, had, had this come out just a couple years later, might it have been the anthem for the summer of 2020? You
Yeah, I
know,
think I can definitely see that. Um, Part of the
because it speaks
reason,
to so much of what was going on. It was prescient in a way, right? It was in a way it was ahead of its time.
yes,
I'm thrilled that it experienced the success that it did. Because if I'm not mistaken, it was, I know it made number one on the Billboard charts, and I
yes,
think she got a Grammy for one of her tracks on this, didn't she?
she did get a Grammy, and it's her only album to go gold, I believe.
Yeah. So I mean, it was well received, and I'm very happy with that. But I in a way, I'm surprised by that because it almost feels ahead of its time.
Yeah, I think it ushered in kind of these albums that were, and allowed the conversations that to be had about specific topics. I
Mm.
was kind of scrolling through YouTube, um, to see if anybody had done like a retrospective or anything about it in the 5 years since, and basically, no, which I think is a crying shame, but which is why we're doing it now. And the other thing was, how many people were talking about specific songs and how what their reactions were to the specific songs, and how they were like, so many things I was feeling this album brought out. So many things that I
Wow.
felt I was feeling inside, I was able to connect it through this way. So I
And that's
think,
really that's one of the best things we can hope for of music, right? Is that it lends words to the feelings we don't quite yet know how to express.
right, you
It's a
know,
beautiful thing.
and I think that's what makes this album so special, even fun. Because the thing is, I went and listened to it. I listen to it fairly often, but I listened to it today specifically, and it still feels current. It still feels like, you can just put it on and let it play and clean your house or do this or do that. And there's enough still there that you're uncovering little things that are like sonic scapes or something that's on the album that you're like, oh, I didn't catch that the first time I heard it. Oh, that's okay, cool.
Absolutely.
So I think that if you've not listened to A Seat at the Table, do yourself the favor, of really listening to it. And I would say, this is an album that you sit down with, you know, and just, light some candles and just listen.
See, it's interesting. You were saying a moment ago that this is a good track to have on, sort of in the background, like if you were cleaning or something. I believe that houses should only be cleaned to Anita Baker, but but I believe that this is a fantastic track to pour a little wine, and yeah, like you said, put some candles on, hop in the bathtub, listen to, and let her take you on a journey,
Yeah,
because you will not be sad that you did. You will be enriched in ways you didn't think possible, if only you open your mind to someone else's perspective.
I agree. Josh, we should do this again.
You're here.
Like, this was so much fun. Like, we
Yeah.
should definitely pick it. I'll let you pick the next album.
Well, I think we all know which album I'm going to pick, right? I mean,
Stacey Orico's self-titled debut.
actually, I'll have you know that we're going to do Ashanti's self-titled album from 2002.
We would never. We would never. Although, as a note, Ashanti is re-releasing that album.
It wasn't enough.
There will
Was
be some people that will
not.
be upset to hear you talk about their girl Ashanti like that. I'm not one of those people because that's how I feel about her. but
She knows what she did.
she knows what she did. um, I think I do. I think we should do this maybe once a month or so.
I like that.
Do an album
I like
discussion.
that. Okay. Well,
Chris said the Beatles. Absolutely not, sir.
the Who?
Exactly.
To quote Angie from 30 Rock, who the fuck are the Beatles?
Well, guys, on that note, we're going to go ahead and end this for tonight. Joshua, thank you so much for being my lovely co-host for this. Again, we're going to do this again. Where can the people find you if you want them to find you?
It's funny that you say that because all I really have these days is my Insta. So I don't really do like the Twitter thing anymore. But there's always Josh74656 on Insta.
All right. That way you can find Josh there. Don't forget that scroll all the way down. You can find us anywhere you stock your X. The website is kcapc.com. Just look at the scroll. That's where you can find us. Don't forget to donate because we got bills in this bitch. So if you want to, hand us a couple dollars, we are always down. We are not doing Ashley Simpson, Christopher. I mean, yeah, we're gonna. You know what we're gonna debut? We're gonna do the Lindsay Lohan album, so we can talk about the joy that is rumors.
Can we do an entire episode just for the Kim Zoltak tardy for the party?
Tardy for the party. Absolutely. Listen, we can talk about. I have an idea for an episode of. Of songs from Housewives franchises, and why they're all terrible.
Oh boy, I'm gonna have to drink for that one.
Just look up Miss Lawrence's Closet Freak. It's a joy and a revelation. It's great. Let's do it.
All right.
The Countess's song. Either way, we're gonna do this. This is a thing. We're calling it. I spoke it into existence. We're gonna have to come up with a name. Right now, I'm calling it the Music Shop, but we'll see what we can call it later.
All right.
So yeah, don't forget to find us on all those things, and we will see y'all later.